Hey everybody, welcome back to Cornhole Videos. We've been reviewing Amazon's The Rings of Power, and we just got done with the finale episode, episode 8. What'd you think, Carson? In one word.
Shit.
Shit. Let's go on that first note. Good. Well,
we're not even going to go with the notes. We're going to cover the plot points. So we'll get to the least important ones, which are the ones that aren't shown. There's no dwarves in this episode. There's no villagers with the ugly child and the black elf, which it automatically makes the episode lose points because the only character we care about is not in it. So we'll get to the secondary, least impactful plot point, which is Numenor. We have Muriel, who wanted everyone to be told that she wasn't blind, yet openly wears a blindfold. Her and Elendil are going back to Numenor. That's all they're doing. We're going to go with the hobbits. The hobbits, they're tracking down the lesbians who are tracking down the hobo.
A large part of this last episode was the hobbits, and it just, nobody, we care about none of them.
We might have cared for the black hobbit, Sadik. He at least is a good actor and whatever, but the hobbits are just not interesting at all. So,
not very good.
So basically, they're tracking down the lesbians who are trying to track down Hobo, and they found the Hobo. They think he's Sauron. He's not Sauron. We all know that he's not Sauron. It wouldn't make sense that he's Sauron. He's too nice to be Sauron. Then the hobbits catch up to him. They have a fight with the hobbits.
I'd like to point out. Magic fight.
Oh yes, I'd like to also point out how stupid these women look. They're wearing armor and everything, but the only weapons they have are daggers. One of them has an inexplicable shield and one has a staff. They also wear their hoods in dumb ways. However, the hobo is actually Gandalf. He's not called Gandalf, probably because Amazon would be sued if they called him Gandalf. But he's called the Astari, which means he's basically Gandalf.
When he shatters all them women and then they turn into moths or whatever, or butterflies, he grabbed the staff and he said the best written line in all of the show, "I am good." And then he exploded like atomic Godzilla and killed them, except Nori.
Yes, he didn't kill any of the hobbits. We did get to see Michelle Obama fight Eminem for a brief moment, and that was cool. She threw a rock at him. Should have been a potato, with all these bad Irish accents going on. So they get back to the big old hobbit gypsy satanic village where they all gather around and are prepared for the great migration over to Woodstock. And the hobbits are basically just like, yeah, what are we going to do? Nori is like, I guess I'm going to go back with my people. You'll be okay, giant man who totally isn't Gandalf. And Gandalf is like, whoa, I can talk now. And
he can talk a lot?
Yes, he can talk a lot now. And then
who knew grabbing a stick would make you talk a lot?
And then Hearts Bigger Than Our Feet guy comes over and is like, we made you a backpack out of tree bark and shives. And Nori's like, oh, really? And he's like, yes, we're going to send you off into the wilderness alone with the giant man. And,
what a good father, right?
We see the elves.
Oh.
Galadriel and Halbrand are coming back from Detroit, and Halbrand still has his bad wound. Galadriel is muddy for some reason, even though she was clean last episode when they left. So she's dirty for some reason. She starts wearing a dress again, though, so she starts actually acting like a woman. That's nice. All she needs to do is get barefoot and pregnant, and the trifecta will be complete.
It's all Carson wants.
It's all I want. Oh, yeah. And so they get there, and we get into this made-up lore about the elves' light fading and them losing their immortality, which, as I've established before, is made up. And basically, they're just like, yeah, we're gonna forge something. And Halbrand is like, is this the forge of the great Celebrimbor? Well, I will point out, Celebrimbor's forge is nice looking. It's the only good thing I'm going to say about this episode.
I thought it was kind of cool, and the fella who plays Celebrimbor kind of did it pretty well in this episode too. So,
basically, they're going to go and they're going to forge a crown and give it to Gil-galad. And Gil-galad is like, that's only for one person. That's dumb. Frankly, he's kind of right. He's also a chump at the same time. Elrond is like, please let us try something, and Gil-galad is like, you got 3 weeks. And so they start forging the thing, and then Halbrand has this weird talk with Galadriel where he's just like, everything you did helped me. Thanks for helping me. And Galadriel is like, this is suspicious. And then there's like a scene in between
she went in the restricted section in Hogwarts and found that scroll.
Yes.
And that scroll apparently inexplicably told her exactly who Halbrand was.
Yes.
Who is actually, Halbrand's not king of that one broken down fort in that burnt village.
Yes.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
It's almost like in the 3rd episode he said that he took the brooch off of a dead guy. So, and then in a scene that's basically right after this, where you have another weird scene with Galadriel and Halbrand, where Galadriel's like, "Who are you?" And Halbrand is like, "What do you mean? You know who I am?" And Galadriel's like, "No, now I think you're an enemy, and I'm scowling slightly harder than I always am." And Halbrand is like, "Look, I mean, literally everything that brought me here was your idea. I told you I didn't want to do anything anymore." And Galadriel is like, "No, you," even though Halbrand is right. And basically we get the reveal that Halbrand is Sauron. Wow. No one saw that coming, did they?
Oh my god.
And so
no way.
And so we find out that basically Sauron is a misunderstood hero who wants to make Galadriel his queen. It really validates all those teenage girls who have shipped Galadriel and Sauron for the past 20
galaxy
years.
Together.
Oh yes, cupping her face and everything like that.
No, I am your boyfriend.
Yes, and Galadriel and Sauron are just looking at each other, and you have this weird shot where it shows them on the ocean, and then the moonlight reflects and turns around, and you see that their reflections are like the white flowing gown Galadriel and the big armored Sauron. It looks like something a teenage girl would draw. It's bad. The idea of Sauron liking Galadriel is bad. And then he looks at her and is like, "Yeah, well, you're still gonna have to use the forging stuff to save your people, ain't you? So I guess you ain't gonna tell him that I'm Sauron, are you?" And then he goes, and Galadriel goes, and then he teleports away. And Galadriel wakes up in the pond fountain thing.
Almost kills Neil Patrick Elrond.
Yes, almost kills Neil Patrick Elrond. They start forging rings. They take Galadriel's dagger because they need pure gold and silver to mix with the mithril that somehow contains the light of the 2 trees for some dumb reason. And so they put it in there. Elrond or Celebrimbor puts the mithril in there. It makes the eye of Sauron in the mixture. Subtle. And so they mix it, and despite the fact that all these metals are in the same mixture, it makes 3 different colored things for the rings. They also have the most gaudy, uncut gems to put in these rings ever. They look like plastic things that you get out of an aquarium.
Yeah, it's kind of like a Cracker Jack ring.
And then you see edgy boy Sauron walking into Mordor with Mount Doom in the background. And then these people had the gall to have the end credit song be the poem Tolkien wrote about the Rings of Power. It's about time that we just say that this episode gets 0. This episode is overly long, and frankly, just...
Imagine this is your finale. Imagine you're sitting around a table, and you got, I don't know, upwards of 10, 15 folks in this room, and they're all writers, and you're all on the payroll. Potentially, this is probably how it's going on. Amazon got some money to pay some writers. They got a whole bunch of folks around a table, and imagine this. Someone says, hey, the last episode should be really freaking boring, and nothing should happen. We should also not show dwarves, who have been the only driving force of humor in the show, really. Yeah. We should also not show the dashing black elf, who is the best developed character. He's awesome. Everybody knows he's cool. He had the coolest fight. Galadriel didn't fight anything except a troll.
She fought a troll and did some dumb horse tricks.
That's true. So it's like, imagine That's what the guy presents. And then you got Tim over there. He's a new guy. He don't know he's doing wrong. He says, I think that's a good idea. Let's go 8 hours of nothing to build up for maybe a good second season. But that's probably not going to happen anymore. George, who's a veteran writer, he's there and he's like, hey guys, I think we should put a little bit more effort in this final episode. It's an hour long, an hour and 12 minutes long. We should put a little bit more effort into this. Maybe some fights. Show the dashing black elf. And then Tim is like, I kind of think he's wrong. And then everybody just agreed with Tim. Imagine that. This season sucked my soul out. Because I don't know about y'all. Y'all had to do it for 8 hours. I had to work like 3 or 4 hours editing every episode. Because my computer is what they call dookie ass.
Because if you really just think about it, think of everything that's happened in this season and actually put it on a scale. If you look at, to say, the Two Towers in Lord of the Rings, and you look at the Rohan scene. Now, for those who haven't seen it, you ain't gonna have context, but maybe this will inspire you to check out the Lord of the Rings movies and see how great they are. So, you have the Rohan scene, and now there might be a few jumps in between here and there, looking at other things, looking at the Merry and Pippin and Frodo and Sam and such. But take the amount of time you have in Rohan, where it establishes that Theoden's son has died. It establishes that Grima Wormtongue is manipulating Theoden. It establishes that Grima Wormtongue has a fascination with Eowyn. It shows Aragorn, Gimli, and Legolas coming there, them discovering that not only is Theoden being manipulated by Wormtongue, he's being manipulated by Saruman. It shows Gandalf healing Theoden, and then it shows Theoden reclaiming his kingship and deciding that they're going to go to Helm's Deep. This entire sequence probably takes a grand total of 20 minutes. Maybe a little bit more. What has happened with the Hobbits? Well, they've moved from here to here, had a fight with some lesbians, and made friends with a giant in 8 hours. What have the Númenóreans done? Well, they've decided on a whim to go from here to here and then come back in 8 hours. What have the elves done? The elves admittedly have the most fleshed out storyline because they have the storyline with the dwarves. So, I'll give them that. What do you have with the village storyline? Well, the village decided to abandon a fort, fight in a village, and stay there. There are so many drawn out things in this show, and it really is just one of those things where you look at it, you look at the budget that it has, and you wonder where it's gone. And frankly, that's where we get to the creators of this show and how little effort that they actually put into it. You have $1 billion. Do you hire experienced writers? No. You hire people who worked with J.J. Abrams, of all things, who have a lackluster Star Trek show under their repertoire. It's like Discovery or something like that. That's the Star Trek show. Badly reviewed. That's their credit. Who do you hire as your lead actress? A chick who has one credit to her name, and it's this show. Who do you hire as your stunt coordinator? The dude who did the stunts for the Power Rangers movie. Do you actually spend time and make practical sets? No. Do you actually spend time and work on your CG? No. You have a lackluster CG that looks like it's from 2005. You actually care? No. But you'll say that you've gone back to the books and that you've studied them and are bound and determined to make something true to Tolkien's vision and everything. You'll gaslight all the fans who voice their concerns and say that they're simply racist and are only angry that you've cast some black people to play some characters. Casted some black people and no other people of color. Because actual diversity is only skin deep for you people.
Why would Bezos do this to us?
Money laundering.
So
that brings us to the other point with all this stuff. Is old J.D. Payne came out and said that the backlash against the show was patently evil. Take that accusation and shove it up your ass, you waif. To all the people who dare to like this show and think that it makes them endearing, that they've been served cornflaked feculence on a plate, It doesn't make you endearing or special that you like trash. It makes you a gullible pawn. You're not a Tolkien fan because you sit down there and like this show. You're a dumbass. That's the end. We're not watching the next season. We're done with all this.
We're done.
We're done.
Well,
Y'all have a good night.
That was wild.
This has been Cornhole Videos Rings of Power.